We are joined here today with a few people. One is Krista Chandler and Irene Muir. Yeah, thank you. Say hi. They're with the University of Windsor. They're going to be presenting some research findings on a very interesting program that they've been doing that I think is also being undertaken at the University of Toronto, if I'm not mistaken, where they work with low-risk sedentary students who are looking for counseling to bring them into a physical activity program as part of that counseling. And they've got some very interesting findings to present to you today and to talk to you about. And Krista is a professor with the Faculty of Human Kinetics at the University of Windsor. So take it away, Krista.
Great. Well, thank you, John, for that introduction and for organizing this webinar. We're very happy to be with you here today to discuss our exercise program aimed at improving the mental and ultimately the physical health of the University of Windsor student body. So as John said, I'm Krista Chandler, and with me today is PhD candidate Irene Muir. So our team includes researchers, myself, Irene Muir, as well as Dr. Todd Lougheed and Chad Sutherland, all from the University of Windsor. But we collaborate with on-campus services, including the Student Counseling Center, as well as the Lancer Recreation. And this program could not run without their assistance, as well as the many undergraduate and graduate kinesiology students who work with the program and who personally train the participants. So university students face many adversities and changes as they transition to post-secondary education. These may include missing home, a lack of support, and poor nutrition, which we know can negatively impact their mental health. In fact, 70% of Canadian students experience symptoms of anxiety and depression, which can hinder their daily functioning and academic performance. And this has led to an increased demand for campus mental health services, which can exceed up to 40% of the student body.
Wow.
As John alluded, we know exercise has been shown to be an effective alternative therapy to prevent and treat mental illness. However, only 44% of Canadian students meet the physical activity guidelines of 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity each week. Students spend significant time sitting in class and now more than ever in front of their laptops, completing assignments, doing online courses, studying for exams, which all promote sedentary behavior. So given exercise has an inverse relationship with mental health, it's vital to promote regular exercise with university students to improve mental health and encourage exercise adherence. Our program was modeled after the success of the Move You, Happy You program by one of my former master's students at the University of Toronto. We've been running our program, the UworkItOutUWin program, since the fall of 2017. And Irene will now take over and speak to you about the first 5 rounds of our program from the fall of 2017 until 2019.
UworkItOutUWin is a 6-week supervised exercise program that's implemented with students at the University of Windsor. And the aim of the program was to reduce students' mental distress and enhance their mental well-being. So student recruitment occurred from fall of 2017 to winter of 2019. And students were referred to the UworkItOutUWin program by a counselor at the Student Counseling Center on campus. And we had 49 low-risk students participate in the program. So according to the university's Student Counseling Center, low risk is defined as those who are struggling with symptoms of mental illness, but it does not impact their daily functioning. And these individuals do not have any current or recent suicidal ideation or intent, but they want to improve their mood and reach optimal functioning. So the UworkItOutUWin program comprised 2 main parts. And the first component involved individual training sessions that occurred twice a week for 45 minutes each. And the sessions were held in a private gym on campus and included cardio fitness training, whole body strength training, and flexibility training. And so to meet the Canadian Physical Activity Guidelines, students were also required to exercise for an additional 60 minutes on their own each week. And student progress was monitored by the personal trainer through the Team Builder Strength and Conditioning app, which recorded participants' reps, weights, or time for each exercise. And the second component of the program was weekly 30-minute exercise counseling sessions. And the primary aim of these sessions were to enhance students' motivation to engage in exercise without supervision. So each week consisted of a different topic, as you can see on the slide here. So for example, in week 3, participants were asked to identify barriers that they've encountered when trying to reach their exercise goals. And then with the help of the counselor, they were then asked to brainstorm strategies to overcome these barriers. And at the end of each counseling session, students were given an infographic on the following topics here. So focusing on progress, not perfection, slow eating, the importance of sleep, the role of water, portion size, and healthy recipes. So infographics were chosen because they present information in a clear and concise manner, and they have lots of color, and they have also shown to enhance understanding as well. So students were asked to complete a series of surveys before and after participating in the UworkItOutUWin program, and this helped us to determine if their mental health changed as a result of participating. So the current slide shows the average scores for mental distress and mental well-being from pre to post program. So we found that anxiety and depression significantly decreased after the program, while positive affect, emotional ties with friends and family, and life satisfaction significantly increased. So although scores for loss of emotional control was lower after the program, this was not a significant change. So one possible explanation for this may be the time of year that the program was implemented, as each round began after reading week in order to avoid disruption. So students may have experienced academic stressors during this time because most had already received their midterm grades and they were already studying for final exams. So these stressors could have impacted their control over their emotions. But nonetheless, the UworkItOutUWin program could have prevented students from experiencing greater declines in loss of emotional control during this stressful time. So overall, the program was successful in reducing students' mental distress and improving their mental well-being. And it appears to serve as a coping mechanism to decrease symptoms of mental illness and enhance mental health. At the end of the program, each student is asked to participate in an exit interview to share their experiences. And questions pertain to what they liked and disliked about the program, as well as what they learned or accomplished. So students stated that the program was beneficial because it held them accountable to their exercise program. Additional benefits were the mentorship that they received from their personal trainer and their counselor, and the fact that the program was free of charge. And they also mentioned some program outcomes as well, such as greater exercise knowledge, increased confidence to engage in exercise on their own, and enhanced coping strategies for mental health. And 92% of those that were interviewed were mostly or very satisfied with the program that they received, while 29% said that they no longer required counseling services after completing the program, and 84% felt that the program met most or all of their needs. There are several practical implications of this research. It shows that exercise can positively impact mental health in university students. And we know from research that exercise can also provide physical benefits to this population. So exercise can provide additional benefits that are not afforded by other mental health treatments. And research has found that anxiety and depression are linked to low GPA in university students. So it is possible for exercise to improve academic performance by reducing anxiety and depression. And also by reducing these symptoms, it has the potential to reduce students' needs for counseling services. So if anyone has any questions about the program or our research, feel free to email myself or Dr. Chandler if you have any questions.
Great, thanks, Irene. Can I ask a few questions?
Sure.
Couple of things. So I noticed that for the program, you only worked with sedentary students. Why did you make that differentiator? And how did you make that differentiator?
Yeah, that's a great question. We chose to pick sedentary students because we really felt like they could reap the full benefits of the program, given that they haven't exercised yet, and they could really learn a lot from being with a personal trainer and learning all of the different exercises. So we chose sedentary for those specific reasons, I guess. I don't know if Krista wants to add anything.
Sure, yeah, and I think too, as Irene alluded to, you know, we really wanted, the other piece of the puzzle, of course, was just to try to get more people being physically active, which is, of course, as a faculty of human kinetics and a department of kinesiology, it tends to be always that underlying goal. And so if we can take some of those students that were sedentary, and I guess it's important to note they were currently sedentary. That's not to say, John, that perhaps they might have been active in prior years, but at that moment they were sedentary and had at least expressed some enthusiasm to the counselor with whom they were meeting about becoming physically active. So we felt that they were really the people that we could shift in that. If you want to bring it back to the stage of change, we'd be able to bring them into that action stage and hopefully work on their adherence. And when Irene did all the counseling sessions with them, that was a big piece of the counseling, was how can we get these people to take what they've learned working with a trainer to be able to implement that on their own and be motivated to exercise once the program ends.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that's probably part of the low risk kind of piece. So if somebody was expressed some kind of an inclination towards, I would like to get active, which wouldn't then because that, I think that's part of the challenge in terms of people who are facing depression or anxiety, sort of that motivational piece. So the low risk component in terms of the more mild symptoms are the ones that you then worked with.
That's right, John. And you know, there's such a burden on counseling centers that we really tried to provide a service to the university campus that would try to alleviate some of that burden, to allow the student counseling center to have that time available for students who are in dire need and who would need that immediate attention. Whereas perhaps we could be that interim where we could get them and try to integrate them into the exercise program so that perhaps they wouldn't be needing that counseling perhaps as much or even at all.
So how did it work in terms of was it the student would go in and go into the counseling center and be interested in getting the counseling, and then how does who was it that said, you know, you should get involved in this program?
It's very much like a triage would happen in an emergency room. That's how the counseling center works on campus. So the student would set up an appointment or drop in, and the counselor would triage. Do you need, you know, is there an immediate assistance needed? Is this critical? Can we squeeze you in? Or is this sometimes, you know, a 4 to 6 week waiting period just because of the vast number of people wanting counseling services? What's really unique, I think, about the University of Windsor is that every department on campus has their own in-house counselor. So we had set up an initial meet with all of the counselors who were working at the Student Counseling Center and who were placed in each of the departments across the campus. And then they were really our liaison with those students. They provided all the information to that student. You know, really tried to get some indication if the student was interested in that program and if that was going to be a good fit for the student. And then we received that information from the counselor and we reached out to the student. And at that time, they could decide whether or not they wanted to be a part of the program or not.
How was the receptivity from the well, two things. how is the receptivity from the counselors in terms of the diversion? And secondly, just what's the this isn't quite the right way to say it, but what's the level of qualification of the counselors that were participating in the program?
So the counselors that are working for the Student Counseling Services Center are all qualified social workers or psychologists. We have a very big program at the University of Windsor, clinical counseling psychology. So we have great ability to draw on those recent graduates. And to answer the first part of the question, John, the counselors were so excited about this program and so willing to do whatever they could to be on board. In fact, we received far more recommendations than we could physically house because of space limitations and sharing space, and we were getting space from Lancer Recreation, and of course it's a hot commodity to get space on campus, and we really needed a private space to work out, to do that one-on-one counseling. And we had a wait list every round that we've run the program.
And you're still running the program?
Yeah, so currently the program has been on hold due to the pandemic, but as soon as we get back and face-to-face, we will be running the program.
I noticed that in the presentation that there was certainly much more education rather than just the exercise programming. You spent quite a bit of time on nutrition and on sleep and on some of those other factors. So I guess the question is A, can you segment out the exercise component from the addition of those other factors in your results, and B, how important did you find those other factors?
Irene, maybe you can speak to this because Irene did probably 90% of the counseling. So
yeah. I think the counseling really was also a huge influence in the mental health results that we found, because I think, it's one thing to be able to provide students with a structured workout, like you can give them all of that information, but it's really important to then, help them navigate that. How are they going to change their behavior in a way that's going to be more long-term? So that the counseling really helped with that, to help them with time management and, helping them to figure out what is the underlying reason why they want to be more active, and really trying to tap into that intrinsic motivation, and, helping them to figure out what do they like in terms of exercise, like the types of activities, and, what time of day is best for them to engage in exercise. So just really helping them, trying to help them navigate through that. So I think the counseling was a huge factor as well.
And John, to answer your part of that question, which was how can you tease out, at this point we can't, because we didn't have a condition that just received the counseling, and a group that received both the counseling and the exercise, and a group that just received the exercise program. We do know, however, that research would support that there's greater adherence to a program for those people who receive not only the exercise component, but also the exercise psychology component, or the counseling aspect to it.
Yes, I'd actually like a copy of that study. I'm just of that research, because that's really important. That's really important in some of the advocacy work that we do. So I'd be very interested. I'd be very interested in that. Are there any longitudinal prospects coming? Sorry, are there any longitudinal prospects coming out of this, where you're able to see how the people who've gone through the program are doing?
Yeah, great question. We are overwhelmed with data. We have so much even physical data from their workouts, because that's all downloaded, that we haven't even just had an opportunity to be able to analyze that data yet. Follow-up, we have the ability to follow up with them. We haven't done that. But of course, that's just, as a result of perhaps the time constraints and the bodies that we have doing the work on this project, John. But absolutely, it's something that would, I think, be very worthwhile and would contribute greatly. One of the things that was unique to our program, somewhat different from the University of Toronto's program, is that we allowed the students, after they finished the 6-week program, to voluntarily sign up, where we would match them with another student who has gone through the program as well, so that they at least had that social support to continue on, so that they didn't feel like they were completely on their own when they finished the 6-week program. So that was a unique aspect to our program. And again, we just haven't had the opportunity to delve too deep into that aspect of the data yet.
When you said you have a lot of physical data, what kind of physical data are you talking?
So if you recall, Irene talked about the Team Builder app. So every time
that's where I was going. Yeah.
So every time the personal trainer met with the participant in the program, every single workout got logged. How many reps they did, the weight that they lifted, how long they held the plank for, those types of things. So all of that data based on their physical skills while they were doing the personal training, as well as we have information what they did on their own time when they had to exercise the additional 60 minutes. We just haven't had an opportunity to go in and collate that data and analyze it yet.
So you probably had the opportunity to in a perfect world to check the physical data against the outcomes on the mental health scores to see if you can find some patterns there as well.
Yeah.
Last question, what made you pick Team Builder as an app?
Well, it's an app that the University of Windsor, the Lancer program, uses with the varsity athletes. And so Chad, who's the other researcher as part of this team, is very involved with the Lancer athletics. And it was something that he suggested, and it was very easy for the personal trainers to be able to learn. And Chad was very familiar with how to set up each of the plans for each of the trainers to work with the participants. So it was a natural fit.
Right. That's all the time that we have. I'd like to thank you, Krista and Irene, for really interesting. I mean, I think the interrelationship between counselors and doing that triaging process over to exercise, I think is something that probably a key learning as we work as a profession to integrate more exercise programming into the mental health space. So that's really interesting. I'd like to thank you, Krista, and I'd like to thank you very much, Irene. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for putting this together, John.
Thanks.